Hi again then guys, and welcome to another Forza Horizon 3 speed setup in particular, and this time we are keeping on the Porsche train with another one of the free DLC vehicles which you can get from the Porsche pack, the 911 GT3, in particular of the 996 generation. Now this car, like the Cayman that we did yesterday, is less powerful than you might expect it to be, mainly because you don't have the same level of engine swap option as something like a Carrera GT or a 918 Spider. Well, that car doesn't even need an engine swap, of course, but you're running significantly less power than those vehicles are. However, like the Cayman, it has very impressive performance, at least on the benchmark. We'll find out, of course, after doing the tune whether or not it can hit those speeds, but suffice it to say you're working with very good numbers. Now, as you can see, I would recommend that 4-litre flat-six engine. As far as drivetrain, of course, all-wheel drive, I would always recommend that, unless, of course, you're specifically opposed to it. I would also recommend the twin-turbo. As far as visuals, it's already a good-looking car, but that aside, rims are down to you, of course. I would not recommend the front or rear wing. And as far as the rest, you probably know the drill by now. Just for everything that improves the car. Basically everything that has race in the title, except in this case I believe you have the option, if memory serves, yeah you do, of the roll cage. As you can see though, I've fitted the second grade, so you do get some improvement, but you just don't need the full kit. If you want to go for it you can, but it's not entirely necessary. Now, as far as the tuning side of things, and just before we get into that, this tune is incidentally on my storefront, as most of my tunes are, so just use the keywords down below to find it. But as you can see from the benchmark, the acceleration in particular is not quite as strong as the Cayman. For instance, 2.4 to 60, 4.5 to 100, still not slow by anyone's standards though, and the top end speed is a little bit higher, 268. Which is pretty quick. Again, for a car with less than 1100 horsepower, that's good. That's really good. Now, as far as the gearbox, it's a pretty familiar setup, like the Cayman. A final drive of 3.1, then individual gears of 3, 2, 1.5, 1.18, 0.96, and 0.79. Alignment on, well, for camber specifically and toe, neutral camber and toe, 4 degrees of caster. You could go lower if you want it to be more loose, go higher if of course you want the opposite, for it to be stiffer. Anti-roll we've got on 18 and 22. Springs on 100, 200. And as far as ride height, obviously you've got the option. I wanted it to be equal front and rear, because personally I don't like vehicles that have a slammed back end and a raised front end. I just don't like that look. So it's purely down to personal preference. Dampers we've got on 8, 14, 4 and 6. Aero doesn't apply, funnily enough, even though it does have a wing. And as far as the diff, you want 100% on acceleration, 0 on decel, but of course, feel free to change it around, as I've said before on other tunes. And for this car, we've gone a little bit more towards the rear, in terms of centre split bias, 80%. So you've just got that 20% going to the front, to give you the benefit of the all-wheel drive, in particular off the line and off-road, but without sacrificing too much of the fun factor and also manoeuvrability. So that's it for the tune. Now, as I said, let's take it out on the road to see what it can do. Now, with that 80% centre split, the car does have a little bit of a tendency, especially at lower speeds, to, in particular with the tail, run away with itself. It can sometimes keep a drift going more than you want it to and end up overcooking it. So if you want to lower it to say 75 or 70, that's not going to hurt the car. Personally, I've put it on 80 for that high speed manoeuvrability, but it's not going to kill the performance by lowering it. So as I say with all of these tunes, feel free to mess around with other settings to perfect it for your own driving style. Overall though, if you do decide to use this tune or some variation of it, or alternately get it from my storefront, either way I hope you have a lot of fun with it, and of course there are plenty more on the channel to check out. But that's it for this tune overall. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.